Hi guys, this is my update on my Hoya Australis. If you are new to my channel, you probably haven't seen the first video of this one, and there will be a little bit of story for that. I hope you enjoy the rest of my vlog. You're going to hit the like, subscribe, and of course the bell so you're notified every single time I upload a new video. Everything that I'm using for this particular plant, what you see and what I use to mix in the water will be in the description section, so do check that out. All my social media accounts are in the description section as well, so if you want to connect, check that out as well. Anything else, if you have anything you want to chit chat about this particular plant, questions, anything, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you don't hear from me right away, it's probably because I didn't get it. It happens sometimes with like YouTube. So don't be mad at me because I always try to respond as soon as possible. Okay, so the little bit of the story time was I bought an Australis and an Obovada. And I was I still am really very new to Hoyas, so I didn't know. They look very similar, but then when you look at Hoyas, really, a lot of leaves can be very similar. So I just took the seller's word for it, and I thought I was growing an Obovada. I didn't know until this year that it was actually also an Australis. So I put them together. You can probably see that video. It's still out there. It's still on my channel. In regards to that Obovada, which is really an Australis. So I put them together. This is an 8-inch pot. And I believe I put them in my Hoya mix. I will try to link it down below if I could find it. But this is one of the really, I think, basic and very easy to care for. If you're new to Hoyas, I would really suggest an Australis. I would not suggest going into variegated Hoyas right away, especially for an Australis, because number one, I've never experienced it. Number two, what I do know is variegated plants can usually be a little bit more high maintenance versus the regular ones. So I wouldn't really recommend that. So here we go. She sits in a west-facing window, always have. I've never put her in an east-facing window. I only water her when, same way I water my carnosas, is when the top 1/4 inch of the soil is dry. So I actually put my finger in there. And secondly, if, let's just say, it feels a little damp on that section, or like 1/2 inch in, but the leaves are starting to look a little wrinkly, then I'll water it, whichever is first. And sometimes I can even push it. Like, for example, if it's been 1/2 inch and they still look very plump, I try not to over water and I try not to risk it. The thing is with Hoyas, which I didn't really learn until I had my Hoya SBAFF Burtney, is that there is such a thing as dry rot. Hoyas are epiphytic, and so because they're epiphytic, they are prone to not just wet rotting, like wet root rot, but also dry root rot. So you can't really, they're not really the same as other plants in which they can withstand too much dryness. I had to learn that the hard way. But this is her, and she is in, I would say, I think these are 5 feet bamboos. And she was very, very difficult to bring into this new spot, because the old spot she had, she really outgrew that, and it was too much. So I had to move her into a different room, west-facing window still. She is very, very bushy. And a lot of people were like, what did you do? Because I don't know why, but they were having a hard time with their Australis. I don't want to turn her because she's tilting a little bit, and I actually have to fix this. All right, I think I fixed the problem. So she's very, very bushy and lush, and I think this is definitely one of those, if you're new to Hoyas or you want to start with a Hoya, I would say either a Carnosa or this. That's what I would suggest, and then you can dabble on Pulbicalix. But this is hardier than a Pulbicalix, in my personal opinion. And it's a little bit, it's very, very different versus a Carnosa, because the leaves are thinner and the leaves are definitely whiter. So it can be like a different version of a Hoya if you want something a little bit different. For me, this grows like a weed for me. Like I said, this has grown the most versus my carnosas. I believe all of my Hoyas are my Hoyas from the previous, my first batch of Hoyas. Um, my carnosas, this one, and my pubicalix, they're all either in an 8-inch pot now. Yes, they've outgrown the 6-inch pots that I used to have them in. And one of them is, if you haven't seen it yet, I'll try to put it up top and I'll try to put it in the description section. My Crimson Princess 1 is actually in a self-watering pot with just orchid bark as medium. I'm trying to experiment with that one because I do that with my orchids and they're constantly blooming. When I say constantly blooming, they are always either in bloom or building or like growing buds. It wasn't overnight, that's for sure. It took some time and it took a lot of resources and research, and I studied a lot of nutrients of what I need to give, and it's working for me. So as you can see, there are a ton of imperfections, and the bottom ones are usually, before I got them. So like there's this cupping right here, and there's some issues right there, and I try as much as possible to correct that. So I pay attention to what the plant wants. And as you can see, the newer ones, these are definitely from my care. They're definitely better. They're bigger, they're whiter, they look healthier, and that's because of my care. For the darker months, I didn't really need to supplement with LED plant light, but I will put down there what you guys might want to use, because when I moved her, there wasn't really a need for it, but now coming in the darker months again, I'll definitely probably want to add more just a supplement, because she is actually in the same spot with like smaller Hoyas that in my collection, newer Hoyas. And if you haven't seen those, you should check them out because I'm very excited with those. So here she is, and look at the beautiful dark leaves, right? Isn't that just beautiful? It's stunning. If you don't like this kind of dark leaf, that's sun stressing it. When they change color like that, it's sun stressed. So here's one, and this is an older one, and as you can see, it's starting to go green. And you can see over here, these are more green, but this was, yeah. So if you could see, like that's complete, like that looks black. It's more of like a dark brown, black, maroon, I guess, dark maroon. So far, no peduncles. I do check it all the time because I'm obsessed. I want to experience my first peduncle, and it hasn't happened yet. So we're going to look over here and look at all these beautiful vines. And as I've said, there is no peduncle yet. It doesn't look like a peduncle. I am experimenting with a foliar spray, and I know when I'm like mentioning to you guys that what I'm doing and I found something better or experimenting, the reason I don't share all of that right away is because it doesn't even seem like everybody watches my video completely, and I don't want to jump the gun and actually have people trying out what I'm experimenting and then have a bad result, and then I get yelled at and I get blamed. So I want to make sure it's actually really good. I was experimenting with like a few different recipes. One of them wasn't very good, so it's a good thing I'm not sharing it, or I wasn't at the time, because there's going to be people that would be mad, like, oh my gosh, this like burned my plants, or this like hurt my plants. I don't want that. So I'd rather just do my experimenting on myself, and then when I've completed, then I can share it, if anybody is curious. So the foliar spray is something that I made my own recipe, because if you buy foliar spray, like orchid foliar spray, they're not very cheap, and I didn't really want to get into a habit of that. Here's another tip. When you add nutrients to a plant, foliar or direct to soil, they're always going to expect that. So when you stop, you're going to have some shedding because they're not getting the nutrients that they're expecting. And to have those nutrients is to support the leaves. So when that happens, that's the reason why. Because people always get like completely stressed out and freak out and stuff like that. And it's just because you stop the fertilizer or you stop the supplement or you stop something. So just pay attention. So if you want to start something like that, make sure you really are going to be dedicated and always going to keep on going with whatever schedule you have. If you're doing it once a month, keep on doing it once a month. If you're doing it every other month or every other feeding or every other time you water or every time you water, something like that, keep up your schedule because the plant will expect that. So here we go. And here she is. I kind of really wish there was a peduncle for this update. That's why I was kind of pushing off this update. And I really didn't want to update this plant on my channel very often because what's the point? I wanted to do an update that was minimum 1 year or around that time frame. And I think 1 year is a big difference. Some things can happen, like she's in a different room, still the same direction of light, but in a different room. I believe the nutrients that I feed her are completely different from last year. And now I have added a foliar spray, which is completely different. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want to keep on updating the same plant unless there's a lot of changes. So I think 1 year is good. I have been asked, an update for this particular plant. And I always tell everybody, and I know like some people get a little bit impatient. Believe me, I can get impatient too, especially when it comes to Hoyas. I'm going crazy. I want peduncles or umbels. Now, if you're new, peduncles and umbels, which I just recently found out, that's what they call the cluster of buds for Hoyas. They don't call them buds. They don't call them anything like that, which is a typical typical thing for a flowering plant. They don't call them that. They call them peduncles and umbels, and it's a cluster. So this is what she looks like. There have been a few nicks from my care, and that is due to, if that was with me, it was probably due to, I didn't know, and I sprayed it during the daytime. And when the light hit, it burned the leaves. And another tip too, if you are going to mist or do a foliar spray or do any kind of spraying or humidifier or anything, do it at the end of the day, like you're on your way to bed. I learned it the hard way. My Crimson Queen actually took a beating and has a lot of burning. So be very, very careful with that. I just want to document all of these because, my vlog is really most of it for me so that I could rewatch it and be like, oh my God, she was so tiny back then. Or if it was healthier and then it died, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I miss her. I know. I think the only people that can understand that are other plant parents. If you're not a plant parent, you're definitely not going to understand what I'm trying to say. You're probably going to be like, oh my gosh, she's so weird. She's acting weird. But plant parents understand the pain. So here she is. As usual, I have a ton of vines like right here. These are going to be leaves. Yep, those are going to be leaves. Another one right here. I just have a ton of vine growth. This is always like, that's why when people share like, oh my gosh, I started feeding this fertilizer or foliar spray and they're happy and stuff. And I always ask like, so what's going on? What's growing? Are you getting flowers? And when people always say, no, they're just putting out a lot of leaves. And for me, it's like, old news, because I could always do that. I don't need help for doing that. I just need help for flowers or peduncles. A tip, if this is the first Hoya video you've ever seen before, when you see vines like this without any leaves, do not cut them because this will become leaves. Yeah, it will become like this. Look at this. And it's good because you guys can see it, like it's smaller. So it's small like this. It will eventually become like this. And it'll eventually become like that. Let's get a different one right here. Okay, so this one right here, those are baby leaves. And eventually it will become like that. And it will become like that. Next will be the next bigger one, and so on. and so forth. And it will just keep growing because these are still baby. I can feel them. They're smaller and they're softer and the color is different, and it'll become that. Hopefully yours is better than that and not as distressed, and it'll become that, and it'll become this big. That's how they are. And once they harden like this, that's usually their size. Like this is hard, this is still a little soft, so this one will probably might have a higher chance of still growing. This one's a little hard, so this one might not grow anymore. I just love the color. It's just so beautiful. All right, guys. Thank you so much for the love and support. I highly appreciate it. Again, I hope you enjoyed my video. You're going to hit the like, subscribe, and of course the bell so you're notified every single time I do upload a new video. Anything else, guys? Comment section down below. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.